Can we give a little more love to your minister of music, Gitanjali Laurie Rivera, Michael Santa Cruz, Lauren Dechtenberg. We are blessed. Well, good morning again. Let's take another deep breath. And let it go. Let's do that again. Breathe in. Let go. One more of those together. Breathe in. Let it go. Well, it's 2025. Whoa. Our theme across Centers for Spiritual Living for this year is going to be rising higher, growing deeper. And so the theme for January, to start us off, is stretching into possibility. Right? Because this idea of rising higher has this invitation that we're reaching up, we're reaching into the higher principles, the greater expression of ourselves, the standing up for justice, the being louder in the world, right? Being prouder, being truer, being the greater versions of ourselves. And then the growing deeper is growing deeper as community, deepening into our spiritual practice, being willing to look to those spiritual truths in difficult times that hold us when we're questioning. Right? So there's a kind of a stretch involved in this rising higher, growing deeper at the same time. Right? Last year was a year of grand rising, and a whole lot of stuff rose up over the course of 2024 for us, right? Not just in this community, but in the nation. And I have a sense that 2025 is going to challenge us. There's a lot about to unfold in front of us, y'all. Like, we're just over a week and a half away, not even, from a presidential transition. And I can feel the breath in the room. Right? And, and in the impact of that, right, we've shared before, Jason and I, one of our big concerns this year, we plan to get married in June. Are we going to be able to legally do that? I know there are people in our various neighborhoods right now who are concerned if there's going to come a knock on their door, if they're safe living in this country. Right? There's a lot. That's just the beginning of the list. There's a lot that's up, that's available for us to look to. And I have said over and over and over again from this stage, well, wherever the stage was, that everything that comes our way is an invitation. That everything that happens to us happens for us. That we live in an interactive universe, right? And that what is our core principle here in the Centers for Spiritual Living and Science of Mind, Religious Science, New Thought, we've got a lot of names for this thing. Our core principle is that God is all that there is. That there is one mind, one consciousness, one living beingness that is interacting in the entirety of the universe. Right? That same presence that's spiraling the galaxies and absorbing things through black holes and shining the sun and growing the grass and living as each one of us is the same power that is looking through our eyes, that is acting upon our thoughts, that is living through our bodies and our work in the world. And I don't know if you get it, but it's a really revolutionary concept for us to claim that we are God. Right? When, I don't need to tell you the whole story, there was a point where we were at a group gathering and someone asked, what is the core of my teaching? And I had an answer, and then Jason chimed in and said, I know what the core of your teaching is. You are God. Act like it. Act like it. Act like the power and the presence of the universe is shining through your eyes. And live in a way that you become the living emissary, that greater possibilities are available. I've been practicing the science of mind, this philosophy we teach, for almost 20 years. And I know for myself that claiming that who and what I am is a living presence from the universe here to co-create with life itself has been a revolutionary concept that has changed my life. And I've watched it change the lives of others as I've moved through this path, as I've been part of this greater community. And one of the beautiful things is that for the last, say, 100 years of New Thought, this has really been a self-help spiritual philosophy. It's been all about change your thinking, change your life. If you can shift your thoughts, you can create the experience of life that you have. It may not be able to change the circumstances, but it will change the experience that you have of what you are going through, right? And sometimes the conditions do change. But the real work is about how we change. I believe continuously that the evolution of this philosophy is to move from change your thinking, change your life, yes, that's a good starting point, to change our thinking, change the world. Right? Because the same principles that work in my own life to change my thinking about how I'm dealing with circumstances are the same principles and powers that are available to all of us as we work collectively to build a world that works for everyone, which is the vision of Centers for Spiritual Living. To build a world that works for everyone. I've been on this path for a while. There are times when what I'm experiencing, the stuff that's going on in the world, make me question what I believe. Ever been there? Yeah. Sometimes the stuff is very convincing. Sometimes the stuff that's up is so painful, so overwhelming, so hard to believe in that it causes us to question our higher truths. How could this be spirit in action, this horrible thing that's happening in the world or in my life? And yet something could come from that we don't see. I had been recently just doing some prayer work for myself, asking to get a deep reminder of the power of this philosophy and why I do what I do. And last Tuesday, the 31st, I went to the center to check the mail. And there was a letter that was addressed to our center by someone who has been incarcerated in prison in Florida for the last 20 years. If you remember, there was an article about our community in the Science of Mind magazine last June. In that article, there was a picture of our community when we marched in Pride together. In that picture, we had a banner with our center's name on it. On that banner was our address. Someone, his name is Luke, been in prison for 20 years in Florida, has been reading the Science of Mind magazine for the last 10 years. Because of that, bought the Science of Mind textbook, has been reading that every single day. He wanted to reach out and ask for prayer and spiritual counseling and support. He found a little glimmer by seeing our address on our banner. He doesn't have internet. He's imprisoned. And this was his one way to reach out to someone. So he sent us a letter. Now, Luke has been in prison for 20 years, started practicing Science of Mind 10 years ago, considers himself a practicing religious scientist. He was put in prison for murder and armed robbery and convicted of a crime under the age of 21 and is serving 3 life sentences. In his letter, he told me that using these principles that we teach, he has transformed his life. And that in his prayer work, he was able to get an appeal through to the state of Florida. And he's suing the state of Florida for their harsh sentencing laws and the way that they over-punish crimes. His lawsuit is attached to 100,000 other inmates' cases who were convicted of violent crimes before the age of 21. He reached out to us to ask if we would pray for him, to pray for this case, and to pray for the liberation and the freedom and the belief that people can heal and change and transform. Can you feel that? Right? I wept as I read this letter, and I've been carrying it around for a week like it's my prized possession. Because there's been this huge reminder for me of the power of what can happen when we change our thinking. It may not change our circumstances. Luke is behind bars in prison, has been there for 20 years, has been practicing this philosophy for 10 years, and is telling me that it has dramatically changed his life. It has shifted his experience that he's having there, and in that it has opened a doorway that could lead to not only his freedom, but the freedom of thousands of other people and a reformation of a justice system to bring about a more just world that believes in healing, that believes in a world that could work for everyone, that believes in true justice, not punishment, right? That's the power of this philosophy to make changes in lives and in the world. And so I've written Luke back, and we're going to be corresponding. But one of the things that I told him is that the first Sunday of every month, we have a tradition in this community that we've been doing for the last couple of years where we pray for someone, where we bring our collective voice and energy together to do our prayer work, to lift the vibration, to speak that truth into the world. And so as I wrap up here in a moment and we move into prayer, I'm going to invite us to pray for Luke today, to pray for this liberation, for this freedom, for this transformation of justice. Because our mission is truly to bring about a world that works for everyone. And someone has asked us and given us an opportunity to do so. And I also want to maybe start a little campaign that maybe we could get Science of Mind magazines into our local prisons and jails. Because in that magazine is a daily reader where you can read every single day inspirational thoughts that keep your mind tuned and on a higher truth. And this is the second letter from someone I've received in the last 6 months who's been incarcerated, whose life has been transformed by the philosophy that we teach here, that have been reaching out, asking for more support, for more prayer, for more resources. And we can supply those. I can supply that. And that letter was an answer to prayer for me, because it deeply reminded me of the power of what we talk about every week. And sometimes it's easy to get overwhelmed by the stuff, by the conditions, by the pain, by the things that don't feel like they can change. But to get a reminder that really the thing we can change is what's going on inside of our heads. And as we change that, everything outside can start to change as a result. You with me? Yeah. So take a deep breath in. I'm going to invite Shira to come up. She's going to play the bowls with me as we go through this. And we've done this a number of times in our community if you're new here. I'm going to invite in just a moment all of us to speak a prayer for the highest good. Luke is going to be our focus, but really this is a prayer for justice. This is a prayer for healing. This is a prayer for freedom. This is for a better version of our country, right? There's a lot of prayers wrapped up in this. And so find your version of this prayer. It could be to speak a mantra over and over and over again, or to make a tone or a sound, or to use your voice and speak a prayer out loud. And so if you're comfortable and able, I would invite you to stand up as well, to really bring that energy forward if you're comfortable in the rows. And if not, stay seated, of course. Do what feels good for you. And I'm going to invite us all to bring our vibration together to build a collective consciousness of healing. And then I'm going to wrap that around all of us as we conclude. So let's take 3 breaths together, breathing in and letting go. Another breath in and let go. One more deep breath. And I invite you to, in whatever way works for you, speak your prayer out into the room. Here we go. Let's begin. And so I begin by speaking my word, reminding and remembering that there is one infinite being One power, one presence, one life force, one love force that is living and breathing in every single spot within the entirety of existence. What I know is that there is no spot where God is not. There is no place in this world, not even in the darkest prisons in this nation, there is no place where the Spirit of the living God is not present, where the power of consciousness is not at work. And so I claim, know, and declare in this moment that the spirit of the presence of the universe that I call God, that is my consciousness, that is the one life, I know that within it there is great freedom as an ideal, as a truth. I know that within that divine mind there is justice, there is wholeness, there is room for forgiveness, for transformation, for healing. And so I claim, know, and declare from that place, recognizing the wholeness and the allness of the universal consciousness, that it lives in me, that speaks through me, that lives and breathes as each one of us in this room. I speak a word knowing for Luke as well, that right where he is a place where the power and the presence of possibility is living and breathing in this world. And I just speak a word of gratitude for the transformation that he has expressed already, knowing that his prayer has become a prayer for thousands, a prayer for freedom, a prayer for justice, a prayer to rewrite laws, a prayer to create a more just world, a world that believes in the possibility of healing and freedom, of restorative justice. And so let's recognize that each one of us is more than our actions. Each one of us is more than our past. That each and every person on this planet has the potential to change, has the potential to become more than they've ever been before, has the potential to rise above circumstances and choose something new. And so I claim that as we bring our consciousness together this day, that we are creating a field of awareness that is rippling out into the world, creating a truth not only for ourselves, not only for Luke, not only for those affected by his case, but for all of us. Because truly the dream, the vision is to live in a world that works for everyone. The dream, the vision is to live in a world of forgiveness, a world of healing, a world of transformative possibility. And so I just open my heart in this moment to remember that we are all connected, and that there is no one outside of that web of connection and oneness. No matter what anyone has done, perpetrator or victim, every one of us has the opportunity to heal, to claim a new truth, a higher possibility, a greater experience of freedom. And so I just give thanks for this community as we come together to hold this. And let us breathe together and let go, surrendering to that life force that is breathing us, that is beating our hearts. What I know is that this one living presence is at work in the world. And as I wrote in the letter that I sent to Luke, there are words on the page 290 in the Science of Mind textbook that say no mistakes have been made. None can be made or will be made. There is one supreme intelligence that governs, guides, and guards. It tells us what to do, when to act, and how to act. And that everything necessary to the greatest experience of the most boundless joy is available right now. The path is being made, the way is being cleared, and new possibilities are being awakened. And so let's breathe and let it go. Breathing in and letting go. One more time. We breathe in, we let go. And so it is.